Something has changed in the great sprawling arteries of America. A silence has descended. It is a quietness not of peace, but of profound and sudden absence. The vast cathedrals of modern travel, once teeming with a ceaseless river of humanity, now stand in a state of suspended animation. The air, which once vibrated with 1,000 languages and the hurried footsteps of millions, has grown still. It is here, in the hollowed-out heart of the global crossroads, that a new and unfamiliar chapter has begun. A great migration that was once a certainty has simply stopped. The world, it seems, has turned its gaze elsewhere. The change was not a cataclysm. There was no thunderous event, no singular moment of collapse. It was a slow, creeping tide of cancellations, a quiet turning away. One by one, then in waves of thousands, and finally by the million, the visitors simply chose not to come. Their journeys, once meticulously planned and eagerly anticipated, were erased from schedules and itineraries. The digital boards that once promised arrivals from London, Tokyo, and São Paulo now flicker with gaps, with cancellations, with the stark, unblinking word: delayed. This delay, however, feels indefinite, a pause without a clear end. Imagine the sheer scale of this emptiness. 3 million individual stories, each with its own hopes and plans, have vanished from the air. These were not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They were families planning to see the Grand Canyon, students hoping to walk the streets of New York, and pilgrims of culture heading for the music halls of New Orleans. Their absence is not just a void in the arrival halls. It is a missing energy, a lost curiosity, a silence that reverberates far beyond the airport's edge, touching every corner of a nation that had, perhaps, grown accustomed to the world arriving at its doorstep. This great stillness is a phenomenon to be observed. It is a study in what happens when a constant, reliable force of nature, in this case, human movement, is abruptly withdrawn. The intricate ecosystem that depended on this flow is now thrown into disarray. The air itself feels different, thinner. The familiar scent of jet fuel and international cuisine has been replaced by the sterile smell of disinfectant and the faint, dusty aroma of disuse. The silence is the loudest sound, a testament to a connection that has been, for now, severed. It asks a quiet, profound question. What becomes of a place when the world stops visiting? Walk through these terminals now. The experience is almost reverent, like exploring a magnificent ruin that was inhabited only yesterday. The long sunlit corridors of glass and steel stretch into the distance, unburdened by the familiar chaos of rolling suitcases and herd queues. The automated walkways glide on, their soft whirring the only sound in a hall built for the roar of a crowd. Sunlight streams through the enormous windows, casting long, uninterrupted shadows across floors polished to a mirror sheen. Every surface reflects a profound emptiness, a world without its people. The echoes tell the story. A lone security guard's footsteps clap sharply against the terrazzo, the sound traveling far down the concourse, unaltered by the dampening presence of human bodies. The distant programmed chime announcing a gate that will remain empty is startling in its clarity. You can hear the hum of the ventilation systems, the soft click of a digital display changing, the almost imperceptible buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. These were the background noises of a bustling world, once lost in the cacophony. Now they are the main symphony, a soundtrack for a place out of time. There is a ghostly quality to the details. A forgotten travel pillow lies on a chair, a small, lonely artifact of a hasty departure or a journey never completed. At the food courts, metal shutters are drawn down, the vibrant logos of global brands obscured in shadow. Behind the glass, stacks of chairs sit tabletop, a silent testament to meals that will not be served. The baggage carousels, those great metallic rivers that once delivered the world's possessions, stand motionless. Their rubber flaps are still, their stainless steel surfaces gathering a fine layer of dust, waiting for a command that does not come. The absence of people changes the quality of the light. Without the constant motion and the varied colors of clothing, the light seems purer, colder. It falls on the architectural lines of the building, revealing the stark geometry of the space in a way that was never possible before. The great halls, designed to inspire awe and a sense of departure, now inspire a different feeling. It is a sense of immense quiet solitude. One can almost feel the ghosts of the millions who pass through, their hurried energy now just a faint memory lingering in the still, silent air. Beyond the sterile confines of the terminals, on the vast, open plains that surround these airports, another story is unfolding. It is a story of quiet reclamation, of nature slowly, cautiously, testing the boundaries of a world that has suddenly grown less threatening. With the dramatic reduction in air traffic, the constant, deafening roar of jet engines has subsided into a low, intermittent hum. The sky, once streaked with the white contrails of countless aircraft, is now a vast, unbroken canvas of blue. This new quiet has sent a signal to the wild things that live at the margins. On the access roads that loop around the airport, roads once clogged with taxis and shuttle buses, a family of deer can be seen grazing at dawn. They move with a calm deliberation, their delicate hooves stepping onto the asphalt, a surface they once would have avoided. The lack of traffic has turned these once dangerous corridors into peaceful foraging grounds. On the expansive grasslands that separate the runways, flocks of birds, once perpetually scattered by the thunder of takeoffs, now circle with a newfound confidence. Their calls are clear and sharp in the quiet air, a natural melody replacing an industrial one. Even the runways themselves, those immense ribbons of concrete, are not immune to this gentle intrusion. In the cracks and seams of the lesser-used taxiways, small, resilient weeds have begun to push their way toward the sunlight. A hawk can be seen perching on a runway light, a vantage point once too perilous to occupy, scanning the silent fields for its next meal. Water that pools after a rainstorm on the tarmac remains undisturbed for hours, reflecting the sky like a series of small, temporary ponds. These are tiny but significant victories for the natural world. This is not an invasion, but a gentle, probing return. The animal and plant life that has always existed on the periphery of these human-built landscapes is now finding space to breathe. The wind, sweeping across the open fields, carries the scent of wild grasses instead of just jet fuel. It is a powerful reminder that even our most imposing creations are merely islands in a much larger, more patient world. Nature does not hurry. It simply waits for an opening, for the noise to subside, for the great machines to fall silent, and then it cautiously steps forward. The silence that began at the airports has seeped into the very soul of America's great cities. In Las Vegas, the city built on spectacle and sound, the change is palpable. The famous Strip, usually a river of light and humanity, feels wider, less compressed. There's a noticeable dip in the ever-present hum of the crowd, a softening of the city's frantic pulse. Hotel lobbies designed for a constant influx of thousands now have a cathedral-like quietness. The casinos, while not empty, lack their usual frenetic energy. The clatter of chips and the ringing of slot machines seem to echo in a space that feels too large for the people within it. In Miami, the rhythm has changed. The humid air, once thick with a mix of Spanish, Portuguese, and English spoken by tourists along Ocean Drive, now carries a more local dialect. The beaches of South Beach, while still beautiful, have more space, more sand visible between the blankets and umbrellas. The drop in visitors from South and Central America is particularly noticeable. It has left a quiet space in the city's vibrant, multicultural tapestry. Restaurants that once had queues stretching down the sidewalk now have tables available, their staff waiting with a patient hope that has begun to wear thin. Chicago, the great metropolis of the Midwest, feels the absence in its own way. The architectural boat tours that glide along the Chicago River carry fewer passengers, their guides speaking to smaller, more intimate groups. The Magnificent Mile, a corridor of world-class shopping, sees less foot traffic. The loss of major European airline routes has hit the city hard, particularly in the grand hotels that line its downtown core. A 22% drop in international bookings is not just a statistic, it is a visible emptiness in the lobbies, a quietness in the elevators, a stillness on entire floors where rooms remain vacant. And in Houston, a city powered by global commerce and energy, the decline is felt in the business districts and convention centers. The international flavor of the city, a point of immense pride, has diminished. The hotels that cater to business travelers and international delegations are quieter, the handshakes and deals that once filled their conference rooms now happening elsewhere in the world. For these cities, and many others like them, the tourism crash is more than an economic problem. It is a change in character, a muting of the vibrant cosmopolitan energy that made them who they were. Why did the world stop coming? There was no single reason, but rather a confluence of streams that together eroded the path to America's door. The shift began with a change in tone, a new set of rules that made the journey more arduous and uncertain. The process of obtaining a visa, once a straightforward, if bureaucratic affair, became laden with new complexities. New fees were introduced, creating a financial barrier that was simply too high for many families and individuals. The cost of entry, both literal and metaphorical, had risen dramatically. Beyond the financial hurdles, a sense of unease began to spread. Stories traveled through the global community of travelers turned away at the border, their holidays cut short over a misunderstood social media post or a political opinion deemed unacceptable. These were not just rumors, they were cautionary tales shared in online forums and whispered among friends. The idea of America as a welcoming destination began to fracture. The open arms that once greeted the world seemed to be closing, replaced by a posture of suspicion and scrutiny. For many, the risk of a ruined journey simply became too great. This political and procedural chill was compounded by a growing perception of the United States as a place of tension. Global news cycles, filled with images of internal strife and diplomatic disputes, painted a picture of a nation at odds with itself and the world. Travelers began to seek destinations that promised not just adventure, but also a sense of peace and security. The feeling of being truly welcome became a precious commodity, and many felt it could be more reliably found elsewhere. The emotional cost of a trip began to outweigh the potential rewards. As these perceptions solidified, the world's gaze began to shift. The global travel industry is a dynamic, fluid system. When one door becomes harder to open, travelers simply find another. The intricate network of international airlines, sensitive to the slightest drop in demand, began to respond. Routes that had been profitable for decades were suddenly unsustainable. One by one, major carriers from Canada, Europe, and the Middle East started reducing, and in some cases eliminating, their services to American cities. The fading footprints were a direct result of these diverging paths. The economic impact of 3 million vanished tourists is not an abstract concept. It is a story told in the faces of countless individuals whose livelihoods depended on the steady stream of visitors. It is the hotel receptionist in Las Vegas, standing behind a long, empty marble counter, polishing a surface that no one is leaning on. Her days, once a blur of check-ins and friendly directions, are now long and quiet. She watches the main entrance with a practiced patience, but the revolving doors turn with a slow, infrequent rhythm, admitting only a fraction of the guests they were built for. It is the shopkeeper in Miami's Little Havana, his store filled with handcrafted souvenirs and colorful Guayabera shirts. He stands at the doorway, looking out at a street that is noticeably quieter. The tour buses that once stopped outside his shop several times a day are now a rare sight. He rearranges his displays, dusts his shelves, and waits. The vibrant chatter of tourists exploring his neighborhood has been replaced by a more subdued local hum. His inventory, purchased in anticipation of a busy season that never arrived, sits unsold. A silent monument to lost opportunities. It is the ripple effect that spreads through the economy like a slow-moving wave. It is the linen supply company that has fewer hotel sheets to launder, the food distributor with surplus produce that was meant for bustling hotel restaurants, and the taxi driver circling the airport for a fare that is increasingly hard to find. It is the young people who rely on summer jobs in tourism to pay for their college tuition, finding fewer positions available. In every city touched by this stillness, an entire ecosystem of jobs, both visible and invisible, has been disrupted. The cultural fabric of the nation has also felt the change. The famous Burning Man Festival, a global beacon of counterculture, failed to sell out for the first time in over a decade. This was a clear signal that the world's cultural compass was pointing in a new direction. For the musicians, artists, and performers who rely on tourists to fill seats and buy merchandise, the silence is devastating. An economy built on welcoming the world is now grappling with an economy of silence, where the primary sound is the quiet counting of losses. As the doors to the United States became more difficult to pass through, the world's travelers did not simply stay home. They are a resilient and curious species, always in search of new horizons. Instead, they began to chart new courses, their paths diverging towards destinations that offered a different kind of welcome. The global map of tourism was being redrawn in real time. Search engines and travel agencies saw a dramatic surge in interest for places that promised ease of access, affordability, and a sense of genuine hospitality. Europeans, who once flocked to the national parks and vibrant cities of America, began turning their gaze east and south. Destinations like Tokyo and Seoul, with their unique blend of ancient tradition and futuristic innovation, saw a boom in bookings. The promise of safety, efficient public transport, and a culture of deep respect proved to be a powerful draw. At the same time, the sun-drenched coastlines of Portugal and the lush landscapes of Thailand became magnets for those seeking relaxation and value, their popularity soaring as travelers shared stories of warm welcomes and stress-free holidays. Canada, too, found itself the beneficiary of this great shift. For many international travelers, it offered a familiar North American experience, vast landscapes, dynamic cities, but with a reputation for being more open and accessible. Vancouver, in particular, saw its popularity skyrocket, becoming a preferred gateway to the Pacific Northwest. The numbers were stark. While cross-border travel into the United States plummeted, bookings to Canadian destinations surged. The world was making a choice, voting with its feet and its airline tickets for a different kind of journey. This shift was not just about logistics, it was about a feeling. Polls and surveys began to capture this change in global sentiment. A significant majority of European travelers started to describe the United States as expensive and stressful, two words that are the antithesis of a dream holiday. In contrast, they described their experiences in Asia and other rising destinations with words like welcomed and secure. The narrative had changed. America, once the ultimate destination in the global imagination, was becoming a place to be avoided, a journey too fraught with complication. The paths of the traveler had found new, more welcoming shores. In the new quiet, the world begins to look different, even in the most unexpected places. The great sprawling complexes of America's airports, once symbols of human dominance over the landscape, are now becoming something else. They are becoming accidental nature reserves, liminal spaces where the human world and the wild world meet in a new and tentative truce. The reduction in noise, pollution, and constant human motion has created an environment where wildlife feels emboldened, venturing out from the woods and wetlands that border these vast properties. Consider the symphony of sounds that has emerged. Where the primary sound was once the deafening whine of a jet engine spooling up for takeoff, you can now hear the chorus of frogs from a nearby retention pond. The wind, no longer competing with the roar of machinery, whispers through the tall grasses at the edge of the airfield. You can distinguish the specific calls of different bird species, the sharp cry of a hawk, the cheerful chatter of sparrows, the distant honk of geese flying in formation across a sky that is now, more often than not, their exclusive domain. This is a world of small, beautiful moments. A red fox, sleek and cautious, darts across a deserted service road in the twilight, its paws silent on the pavement. A turtle, ancient and unhurried, makes its slow journey across a patch of sun-warmed asphalt near a long-term parking lot that is now mostly empty. Rabbits nibble on the manicured lawns in front of the terminal buildings, no longer startled by the constant rumble of shuttle buses. These are not signs of decay, but signs of life, of an ecosystem rebalancing itself in the absence of overwhelming human pressure. This is a story about boundaries. For decades, we drew a hard line between our world and the natural world. The airport was the ultimate expression of this division, a sterile, controlled environment, fenced off and fiercely protected from any wild intrusion. But the wild things were always there, waiting just beyond the fences. Now, with the pressure eased, those boundaries have become soft and permeable. Nature is not tearing down the fences. It is simply flowing through the gaps that have appeared, reminding us that our control is, and always has been, a temporary illusion. The great silence that has fallen over America's airports and tourist hubs is more than just a lack of noise. It is a presence in itself. It is the sound of absence. It fills the vast empty spaces and asks a profound, unspoken question. What is a place without its visitors? What do we become when the world stops watching? In this quiet, there is an opportunity for reflection, a chance to understand the intricate, often invisible connections that bind us to the global community. We are learning that a nation's identity is shaped not only by its own citizens, but also by the eyes of those who come to see it. Travel, at its heart, is an act of faith. It is faith in a welcome, faith in a shared humanity that transcends borders and politics. When that faith is eroded, the bridges that connect us begin to crumble. The empty terminals are a physical manifestation of this broken trust. They are monuments to a relationship that has been strained, a conversation that has been cut short. The stillness forces us to confront what it means to belong, not just to a place, but to a world of interconnected people. It reveals how deeply we rely on the curiosity and goodwill of others to feel whole. Yet, in this quiet, something else is revealed. As the human tide has receded, we see the shape of the land itself more clearly. We see the resilience of nature, the patient return of wildlife to the edges of our world. The deer on the tarmac and the birds circling the silent runways are not just a curious spectacle, they are a metaphor. They speak to a world that exists beyond our own immediate concerns, a planet that breathes and shifts and continues, with or without our constant motion. They remind us that we are guests here too, on a much larger stage. The future remains unwritten. The silence may one day be broken by the returning roar of engines and the familiar murmur of the crowd, but the memory of this great stillness will remain. It teaches us that being a destination is not a right, but a privilege. It is a relationship that must be nurtured with openness, with respect, and with a genuine welcome. In the profound quiet, in the echoing halls and on the reclaimed runways, we are left to ponder what it takes to rebuild those bridges, and what we must do to once again hear the hopeful, hurried footsteps of the world arriving at our door.